The ancient myth of the Hydra explains that if you cut off one head, two grow in its place. It sort of feels that way when dealing with the Marxist socialist threat. There isn't anything left unscathed by the extraordinary push to collectivism, and your life and way of life are threatened. This may be among the most important episodes that we have ever aired. You must stay tuned and watch to the end. Tell your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers to watch. It's that important. We'll outline another element of the elitist control plan and then explain what we must do to stop it. There's still time, but don't think that this can wait till the midterm elections. The time to act is now. Virginia and New Jersey prove that people don't want Marxism forced on their families, in the schools or in the government. Yet immediately after their election defeat, the establishment crammed down mask and vaccine mandates. For the good of us all, they say, you must comply. Those who do not comply will be punished. And don't think that this is going to end with the pandemic. The playbook is already drawn up to use climate hysteria to take full control over the economy and destroy your private property rights. The war to defeat racism is another example. Yes, racism is a societal problem, but it's not uniquely an American problem, as anyone who's traveled the world can tell you. And it's not a problem just for free societies. Dictatorships are notoriously racist, hence the idea of Hitler and Nazis. And it's not strictly a capitalist or free market problem. Communist nations have always been more racist, regardless of what they claim. That was true in Soviet Russia. It's true with communist China today, as they regularly violate the human rights of minority populations like the Uyghur Muslims. In fact, free markets are the solution to racism, at least how any reasonable person defines it. It is foolish. It's anti-economic to hold back people based on their skin color. And yet we've been told that racism is such a threat to public health that the BLM riots were acceptable even in a pandemic. The people who told us to mask up and stay at home, avoiding crowds, they cheered on the rioters. You can't leave your house for church or work, but by all means, it's okay to riot. And being colorblind is itself now considered racist. You have to actually prefer one race over another and feel ashamed if you're the wrong skin color. In other words, in order to not be racist, you have to be, well, racist. Another big evil to address is sexism. Here again, the solution they give is a top-down control agenda. It's not enough to provide equal opportunity. You have to give preference to women over men. But there's hope for biological men. If you decide that you actually feel like a woman, you not only qualify for preference, you become eligible for the most preference. Don't believe me? Take a look at women's sports and see how biological men are starting to dominate. It's gotten so absurd that transgender lesbian women, yes, those with male biology, are now demanding that biological lesbians date them and sleep with them. Think about that for a minute and it will make your head hurt. Yet we're told that sexism and transphobia are a great public health crisis, and only top-down authoritarian mandates and controls can provide a solution. Don't question, just go along. If you fail to conform, you will be punished. Take the Constitution and Bill of Rights and shred them. No more free speech, no freedom of religion, no right to property, no right to conscience. The elites know best, and you will conform or be punished. You're about to see a whole-of-government push on the climate hysteria that will make you long for the good old days of the pandemic. You're already feeling it with inflation, food prices, and energy costs. This isn't a sad, unintended consequence. This is a feature of their plans. But here's the good news. It's not too late to stop the Marxist takeover, but we must act now. The elections in Virginia and New Jersey showed that we still have people with us, and they're ready to stand up even against critical race theory on school boards. But this can't wait until the midterm elections next year. Our enemies, both foreign and domestic, have plans underway to make the midterms irrelevant. With God's help and our work, we can throw a monkey wrench and save the republic. But we have to act now. This may be among the most important episodes we've ever aired. It's an absolute warning. It's all about your future. The left is using economic warfare to destroy you and your family. Let's learn how we can stop them. What's so evil about the left's plan is that they are intent on creating crisis that hurts real people in order for them to grab power. They pretend to be humanitarians as they hurt humans. You're about to be inundated with climate change hysteria as if it were a massive asteroid about to hit the Earth and wipe us out like the dinosaurs. This will be an excuse for a planet-wide response that will make them the masters and you the subjects. This is the same sort of thing that Lenin, Stalin, Hitler, Mao, Castro, Pol Pot, and Chavez did, and in every case the people suffered. The difference between those tragedies and the one you're facing is that America stood strong as a beacon, rescuer, and refuge. If we lose the battle today, there's no place to go. This is an existential threat to your liberty, your family, and your way of life. And it's a threat they're claiming when in reality, they are the threat. We've explained how the ESG movement for investors is just really privatized version of enforcing climate change and their version of anti-racism and anti-sexism. The problem is that the Biden administration is ready to supercharge this anti-liberty agenda with the full force of government, and they're not hiding it at all. And we do not make these warnings lightly. Remember, we were very early in explaining the China threat, and we provided practical steps to address it, including stopping the thrift savings plan of the United States from funding communist Chinese weapons development. We covered that in episode 65. We gave you action steps in our economic battle plan, and you, our viewers, responded. We stopped that nonsense. If we hadn't, our servicemen and women would have been forced to fund the very weapons designed to defeat them. Based on episodes 80, 95, 101, 102, and 108, you followed our economic battle plan and helped us convince the Labor Department not to fund the really progressive New Deal, the leftist dreams. Under Trump's labor secretary, we got ESG funding stopped. But just like the Hydra, the leftists came back with many plans to mandate ESG. Your retirement plan may soon be forced to fund the demise of your constitutional liberty. Think that's insane? It gets worse. In episodes 3, 4, and 28, we explain just how America could become energy independent and keep a lid on both energy prices and inflation. Again, you, our audience, help push America in the right direction based on the action steps we outlined. In episode 85, we provided actionable intelligence on the markets when the price of oil was briefly negative. What a buying opportunity. But just as we defeated the tyranny of OPEC and Russia, they've come roaring back under Biden policies, as we warned in episode 126. The point is this: there are many battles underway in the economic war, and we have a very real impact on your life and your family. We warned you about how the left is playing for keeps in episode 111, and that's playing out just as we described. That was over a year ago, before the presidential election. Did you watch it? Did you follow the battle plan? If you did, you were prepared. In episodes 124 and 125, we sounded the warning that inflation was about to return in a big way, and that would impact everything. We said things have changed, and we included action steps to follow with your investments. By the way, we warned you about serious inflation. The Federal Reserve, the government, and all the talking head economists said, no, it can't happen. They said inflation is transitory. Well, the most recent consumer price index shows inflation at the highest level in over 30 years. And that's not the whole story. The official inflation statistics massively understate the real price hikes that you're facing. The Biden team pretends it's no big deal. The truth is it's really part of their plan, and they're executing it perfectly. We need to take a break. When we come back, we're going to dive into this further and provide you a new set of action steps to stop this evil. Imagine a Bond villain with a diabolical plot to destroy the American energy industry and use its bankruptcy to disrupt the American economy. This will put millions of Americans out of work and make America hostage to Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. Once empowered, this Bond villain vows to eliminate banking as we know it. Unfortunately, this isn't a spy movie. It is reality. And one of the leading perpetrators was trained as a communist in Soviet Union and has a Bond villain name, Saleh Omarova. You can't make this stuff up. Saleh Omarova is President Biden's pick to be the next comptroller of the currency. That would give her enormous regulatory authority over the entire American banking system. And from there, she, in her own words, hopes to bankrupt the fossil fuel industry. If you take away our financial system and our domestic energy supplies, you pretty much destroy the American economy. Think I'm exaggerating? Let's read from the Wall Street Journal on September 29th of this year. It says, President Biden checked off another progressive identity box last week by nominating Saleh Omarova as the comptroller of the currency. Some Trump appointees were ridiculed for having supported the elimination of their agencies. Ms. Omarova wants to eliminate the banks she's been appointed to regulate. The Cornell University Law School professor's radical ideas might make even Bernie Sanders blush. She graduated from Moscow State University in 1989 on the Lenin Personal Academic Scholarship. 30 years later, she still believes the Soviet economic system was superior to ours and that the U.S. banking should be remade in the Grossbank's image. In a recent paper, The People's Ledger, she proposed that the Federal Reserve would take over consumer bank deposits, effectively end banking as we know it, and become the ultimate public platform for generating, modulating, and allocating financial resources in the modern economy. She'd also like the U.S. to create a central bank digital currency, as Venezuela and China are doing, to redesign our financial system and turn the Fed's balance sheet into a true people's ledger, she tweeted this summer. What could possibly go wrong? If you oppose the IRS at looking at your $600 banking transactions, just imagine what they could do if the only banking choice you had was the U.S. government. This is the plan. And with this nomination, they're saying the quiet part out loud. Even Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen thinks that Ms. Omarova is too extreme, but she's afraid to admit it publicly. Hear for yourself Ms. Omarova's statement on a Zoom call with the Jane Family Institute this past February. It's been preserved on YouTube.
For certain troubled industries and firms that are in transitioning. And here what I'm thinking about is primarily coal industry and oil and gas industry. A lot of the smaller players in that industry are going to probably go bankrupt in short order. At least we want them to go bankrupt if we want to tackle climate change, right?
That's right. She said, we want them to go bankrupt. Her comments echo things that we've heard from other politicians as well in the past few years. Here's candidate Obama from 2008.
So if somebody wants to build a coal-powered plant, they can. It's just that it will bankrupt them because they're going to be charged a huge sum for all that greenhouse gas that's being emitted.
I could show you clips all day of Biden saying no coal plants in America, even though he admits China's building them at a rapid pace. Or Biden promising that he's going to ban fracking and eliminate pipelines. These are not glitches or gaffes. They're features of a Marxist energy policy that they intend to force on all of America. And it's not about protecting humanity. President Biden and his climate czar, John Kerry, know that for every fossil fuel plant we close, communist China will open too. And what will China do with all this energy? They're going to make solar panels and wind turbines and supply the critical rare earth minerals that we use to produce electric cars. In other words, they'll be making money as we grow ever more dependent on them. But this won't save this planet from their claims of climate disaster. President Biden also understands that just because we stop producing coal, oil, and gas, America's still going to need it. How else do you explain the fact that he's begging Saudi Arabia and Russia to produce more oil and not less? And John Kerry is defending communist China. He's asking Congress to not sanction China for blatant human rights violations as they've caused their minority Uyghur Muslim population to become essentially slave labor to produce our solar panels. They're also subjected to torture and forced human organ harvesting, along with systematic repression. But somehow, the solar panels are more important than the people. Take a look at this headline from Real Clear Politics on November 1st. John Kerry asked about slave labor in China. He says, "Not my lane. My job is to be the climate guy." Let that sink in for a moment. And then consider this from Will Coggin at townhall.com. He wrote, Kerry has been lobbying his old pals in Congress to try to stop the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, according to a report from the Washington Free Beacon. This bill would prohibit imports of Chinese items by forced labor, such as Kerry's prized solar panels. Kerry also has a reported $1 million stake in a Chinese investment company tied to human rights violations. Clearly, Kerry thinks that the gains that we have made with China on combating climate change are worth papering over the torture, rape, and detainment committed by the Chinese Communist Party. But what gains have actually been made? Almost nothing. China is one of 22 countries opposing the COP26's plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. China is burning more coal than ever. There's an active plume of greenhouse gases hovering above China because of faulty pipelines. Coggin goes on to explain how China has already devastated American industry, lied to us repeatedly, stolen our intellectual property, and built a war machine for world domination. Then he asked the key question, are we supposed to ignore all of this for solar panels, which will increase our over-reliance on China? Any sensible person says no way. But that is precisely what the Biden policy demands. Good for China, bad for you. In episode 165, we explained Biden's plan to eliminate fossil fuels by forcing all cars to be electric vehicles. We also explained how our power grid cannot be ready anytime soon and would collapse under the strain. When you combine that with the push for bankrupting the fossil fuel industry, it becomes very clear. You may have a $60,000 car in your driveway, but no way to power it. The idea of wind and solar replacing power plants is an impossibility anytime soon. Yet all new vehicles will have to be electric in less than a decade. It's a disaster waiting to happen. But again, this is not a mistake, it's a feature. The truth is that the progressive dream to eliminate private ownership of cars, that's what they're aiming for. In fact, the Great Reset promises that you'll own nothing and be happy about it. The target is 2030. We'll take a break, but when we come back, I'm going to show you a video from the World Economic Forum that describes the plans for the Great Reset. The intention is to make all of this happen over the next 8 years. But there's good news. We have a plan to not only stop the Bond villain, but also to make for a better America for your children and future generations. Have you ever noticed that the villain in James Bond movies somehow feels compelled to explain the entire plot before they execute it? I always thought that was kind of stupid on their part. But they're so arrogant that they just can't seem to help themselves. The good news is that this arrogance gives Bond, James Bond, a chance to foil their evil. Guess what? Real-life villains are just as arrogant. The World Economic Forum is run by illustrious figures such as George Soros types, Bill Gates, Larry Fink, Klaus Schwab. They all sort of look like Dr. No, Goldfinger, and Blofeld, don't they? Let's watch a short video that they recently made public. It's them saying the quiet parts out loud and revealing their plot.
8 predictions for the world in 2030. You'll own nothing, and you'll be happy. Whatever you want you'll rent and it'll be delivered by drone. The US won't be the world's leading superpower. A handful of countries will dominate. You won't die waiting for an organ donor. We won't transplant organs, we'll print new ones instead. You'll eat much less meat. An occasional treat not a staple for the good of the environment and our health. 1 billion people will be displaced by climate change. We'll have to do a better job at welcoming and integrating refugees. Polluters will have to pay to emit carbon dioxide. There will be a global price on carbon. This will help make fossil fuels history. You could be preparing to go to Mars. Scientists will have worked out how to keep you healthy in space. The start of the journey to find alien life? Western values will have been tested to the breaking point. Checks and balances that underpin our democracies must not be forgotten.
Did you catch it? Their plan is for you to own nothing, for fossil fuels to be history, for you to be stuck in your homes, for the United States to no longer lead the world, and for China to be at the center of everything, as evidenced by their flag placement, for you to no longer eat meat, for there to be open borders and mass immigration. But never worry, we may go to Mars and find aliens. You'll love it. This is all about your future, and it's all about taking America and Americans down several notches. Rather than lifting the world up with liberty and free markets like we've enjoyed over the past century, the world will drag us down. Does it all start to make sense now? The Biden administration knows that their plan to bankrupt the American energy industry and take over the banking system will cost us millions of jobs. They understand, but they have to fundamentally restructure the American economy to take on all the illegal immigrants that they're allowing through open borders. How else do you explain vaccine mandates causing workers to be fired or quit while not requiring those vaccines for immigrants who are coming here illegally? This is a huge jobs transfer, and the tax plans they want in place are a huge wealth transfer. But now, we've heard their plot. We can use a real action plan to stop this Marxist Great Reset takeover. We have a plan. It involves liberty, free markets, the Constitution, and common sense. We need your help. If we work together, we can preserve America for our children and future generations. But the time to act is now. Who will stand with us? Over the past 3 years, we've been preparing for this moment. We've met with dozens of the top liberty-loving leaders in America and around the world. We have 2 genuine action plans, and you can play a key role in both of them. Let's start with our plan to replace the Marxist investment agenda known as ESG with our pro-America version. We call it LSV. It stands for liberty, security, and values. We've explained the flaws and the threats of ESG. We've explained how Americans far prefer LSV and why. If you're new to the Economic War Room or just want a refresh, go to the Economic Battle Plan for this episode and go back and watch some of our prior shows. We believe that you, not woke Wall Street, should dictate where your investments are made. If you do that, you will most certainly disrupt one of the key features of the Great Reset's evil plot. And it's not that hard. In fact, we're making it easy for you. Do you have a financial advisor? Tell him or her right now that you want your investments to be pro-LSV, not ESG. If your advisor doesn't understand, get them to us. We'll educate them. It's as easy as nominating your advisor at economicwarroom.com/advisor. Now, I've heard from some of you, well, you're not sure your advisor is going to like this or be open to this. Not sure if the person whose job is to work for you would be open to doing what you want with your money? I can promise you, there are plenty of good advisors willing to work to make you happy. And all we're asking is that they become educated about the very real economic war happening from foreign enemies such as China and domestic threats like the Great Reset, socialism, critical race theory, and government overreach. We've taken polls. Liberty-loving clients want advisors who will work with them to preserve, not destroy America. So don't tell me I'm not sure my advisor would be interested. If that's really true, you need a different advisor. We've proven repeatedly that woke Wall Street is a threat. Starting now, we'll be training 10,000 advisors over the next 5 years. We believe that will represent over $1 trillion of your money, our money. That is going to be a massive disruptor to the Great Reset because it will help fund really good ideas focused on liberty, security, and values. Just imagine the great ideas and projects to take America forward. And $1 trillion will represent a tipping point. America is already the land of the free and the home of the brave. We have the inertia because the people are with us. And with our advisor training program, we're going to steal the momentum. People are waking up every week. We get calls from clients looking for advisors with a small retirement plan. One call was $20 million. I'm looking for an advisor. This isn't something we can put off. It shouldn't wait. It can't wait. The time is now for you to get your financial advisor into our Economic War Room training. You do that by nomination at economicwarroom.com/advisor. And trained advisors will join and participate in the NSIC Institute, the National Security Investment Consultant Institute. They'll work together to address the risks of China, Russia, woke corporation, and the efforts to end America's energy security. With a combined $1 trillion and working together, they'll make a real difference. And that's just one of 2 of our signature projects. The second is preparation for the digital currency that Saleh Omarova wants to force on you. We've talked about this before. While the Federal Reserve and the federal government are essentially printing money like crazy, your paper dollar fiat money is losing its purchasing power. Inflation wants to rob your retirement and your children's future. Some in the government want to use your money as a control mechanism. With a digital dollar, they can decide where, when, and how you can spend your own money. Is your cholesterol too high? Then your digital dollars won't work to buy a cheeseburger, even if it's fake meat. The bottom line is this: your liberty is at stake this way as well. The good news, we have a constitutionally approved, liberty-minded alternative. Imagine Bitcoin with government backing, but also backed by gold and silver. Imagine if it came with privacy protection and guarantees, and it functioned on the blockchain. That's what we're proposing to the next Texas legislature and any state that's interested in preserving your liberty and protecting your future with the Constitution. We explained all this in episode 146. It's titled Programmable Money. Go back and watch it, then share it widely. If you know a state legislator, tell them this is what you want. Then have them contact us. If you run this idea past hundreds of people, I've already taken to hundreds of leaders, they all love it, but they want to know that you want it. We're starting a petition. Go to economicwarroom.com/money and sign it. The link will be in the economic battle plan. The time is here and now. By the way, do you get our weekly economic battle plans? It's an online newsletter that includes a recap and action plan for every episode, including this one, and you can subscribe free for a limited time at economicwarroom.com. Remember, what we see as a marketplace, our enemies view as a battle space. This is Kevin Freeman from the Economic War Room.